Hey everyone, Andy Rafael from eTeknix.com, and today marks the day for Z690 12th gen Intel processors. And as we know, along with that, you get lots of new features like PCI Express Gen 5 and DDR5. But what if you don't want to upgrade to DDR5 just yet? Well, that is where this comes in. The Z690-Plus Wi-Fi D4, which actually supports DDR4. Let's do this.
Yo dog, I heard you like RGB, so I put RGB on your RGB.
Thanks dog, but this is my show. Go back to pimp my ride. The new Nzxt Kraken X63 Rgb now with two 140mm RGB fans with an even larger infinity mirror display and new 7th gen Asus pump. And with a 6-year warranty, you've got nothing to worry about. Get your RGB on. Link in the description to find out more. Isn't that right? So as I mentioned, Z690 is upon us, but there are going to be people who maybe financially don't have the money to upgrade kind of every component, because you've got to think there's going to be new motherboards, new processors, and new memory. So what if you're in that situation? We can all kind of hazard a guess that DDR5 is going to be very expensive, very much like DDR4 was when that first came out. And that's where something like this comes in. It basically is everything that you'd want from Z690, but with DDR4 support instead of DDR5. Looking at the front of the box, I mean, it's typical kind of TUF gaming style. And for anyone who doesn't know what TUF gaming is all about, it's a bit of a weird one to explain because generally speaking, TUF gaming always used to be about the military grade components. It's military this and military that. Kind of still has the elements of that. It's just been, I don't know, evolved ever so slightly. My problem is trying to explain it. They're obviously, you know, all about reliability, but that's not to say that other boards not in the TUF gaming range are any less reliable. So hopefully that makes sense, but if not, go over to Asus's website, you can find out more information. Now, looking at the box, there are a couple of kind of standout things that you will see. So you'll get to kind of get that first view of what the board is actually going to look like in that all-important LGA 1700 socket. But more importantly, down here, we have PCI Express 5.0, Wi-Fi 6, and LGA 1700 and the support for the new Intel processors. On the back, that's where we kind of get that first view of really what that board actually looks like and all of the key specs. Now, obviously with that, like I mentioned, you do get PCI Express 5.0, but being a TUF gaming board, because it's not, let's call it high end, you will find that there is only one PCI Express 5.0 X16 slot. The rest of them are actually X3, so keep that in mind. And obviously when it comes to M.2s, we have PCI Express 4.0, I believe, on here instead of 5.0. Not that there's any PCIe Gen 5 drives or anything like that at the moment anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, opening things up, we get the board itself, which we will look at in a minute. We get our Wi-Fi antenna, because obviously it does come with Wi-Fi 6, not Wi-Fi 6E, which I kind of actually expected it to have. Opening this bit up and sort of chucking that away, we get our standoffs and screws for our M.2 devices. So we have that. We also get some M.2, single-sided M.2 pads as well. So I'm guessing that's just to kind of, you know, get it off of the bit where it actually sits. We get another one of them as well. We do get two Sata cables, one of them being right angled, and they both actually have clips on there to keep it locked into place for anyone who still uses Sata devices. Obviously, the way that the market's going at the moment, more towards NVMe, M.2 drives and so forth, it's kind of pretty surprising to see, you know, how many people actually still use Sata. Other than that, if we put the box to one side, we get our driver CD, which I'm always going to be an advocate and always advise you to go onto the website to get the very latest drivers. But to be fair, if you're on Windows 10 or Windows 11, it should pretty much download everything automatically, so you should be good to go with that. We also get a load of stickers. I don't know why, this seems to be a bit of a growing trend at the moment that you get all these stickers with your motherboard. So there's ones to go over the CMOS battery up here. You get a few other little stickers to kind of put on the heat sinks and things like that. It's a novel little idea, I get it. Some people will like it, some people think, nah, that's just gonna stay in the box. We also get the certificate of reliability. So this is what I'm talking about with the capacitors that they used and the methods that they use to actually test them and things like that. That's what TUF gaming is all about. And then we also get our user guide as well for anyone who wants to read that. So let's move on to the motherboard, which comes in an anti-static bag. Taking that out, and we can see straight away ATX form factor, nothing really out of the ordinary. We do get obviously our first glimpse of that all-important socket, which if we take this off, it does kind of open a bit like X299, so kind of up and then down. And this gives us that first view of the 1700 pins ready for our 12th gen processors. So we're actually going to be testing this, ready for the day on the 4th of November with the i9-12900K. So you're going to see some amazing, glorious benchmarks there. Other than that, I mean, it typically looks like your kind of average TUF board. They have actually got rid of some of the yellow kind of trace marks on here, which I'm actually quite happy about. It looks a bit more generic in kind of its style and a bit, you know, easier to customize without having to essentially make a system that has elements of yellow in it. Obviously there is still a little bit here, sort of orangey yellow, and then there's the sort of RGB bits here. These actually light up just to give some subtle RGB lighting. Obviously phase-wise and things like that, we will go through all that when we do our videos for the 4th of November and we'll talk about the power delivery. But to deliver that power, we do have a single 8-pin and a single 4-pin at the top. Plenty of kind of heat sinks around here, around the CPU socket, just to kind of keep things nice and cool. There are some strategically placed fan headers. Firstly, I'm talking about these ones. I don't know why they put them there. I don't want a cable up here and having to route it round. I hate it when they decide to put connectors in the middle of the board. I think it just ruins the aesthetics of it, in all honesty. But to be fair, I think if you're going for a TUF board, you're not really all about the aesthetics. You're about, again, reliability and things like that. There are some more fan headers for your CPU up here. We have our DDR4 slots just down here as well. So it has that slightly off-center notch. And that's about it for kind of the top of the board. We do have an addressable RGB header and a normal RGB header as well. We have our USB, so we've got our USB 3.2 Gen 1 port here, Type-C connector here. We have a couple of SATA connectors just down here, so 2 there and also 2 at the bottom. Looking at the rest of the board, we've got all of our front panel headers, some more fan headers, USB 2.0, another 2 addressable RGB. So you can see the way when a new chipset comes out, when motherboard manufacturers kind of get that ability to add new features, they generally look to add more of the same feature. So I guess less RGB headers and more addressable RGB headers, because generally that's the way that the market's going. We also get our audio capacitors down here, and that's about it connector wise. Talking about M.2 storage, we've got a single PCI Express 4.0 or NVMe Gen 4, however you want to word it, up here underneath this heatsink, and another one down the bottom. It does look like we've got, potentially, I'm going to see if there's actually 2 there or just 1. So there's 1 connector there and 1 connector there. So you can actually have 3 in total. And it does actually say on the board, we have PCI Express Gen 4. You can't use SATA in this one and you can't use SATA in that one. But I'm assuming, okay, apparently you can't use SATA in that one either. It's only for NVMe. So that's quite interesting. And this is what you get when you look at sort of a board of this budget, which at the moment I don't really know the price point, compared to something on the higher end, which will support SATA-based M.2 drives as well as NVMe-based M.2 drives. Other than that, we've got our X16 slot, which is a PCI Express 5 Gen 5. Not that there's anything that supports it now, but obviously paving the way for the future. And then we've got our X1, X4, and another X16 down the bottom, which are all PCI Express 3.0. Other than that, we do have, I guess, some large branding for the TUF gaming element part of it, which kind of spans into the I/O. And talking about the I/O, we do have DisplayPort, HDMI, a Type-C connector down here, which is super speed. So I actually believe it's 20 gigabit per second. We've got some USBs here, Type A, some other ones over here, 2.5G Ethernet, our Wi-Fi 6, another Type-C over here, and then our audio including SP-Diff. It does look like the audio is actually separated down here as well. So, I mean, feature-wise, it's kind of got all of the connectors that you'd want, but maybe not the speeds that you want. And obviously, if you do want to go for something a little bit faster, that's when potentially from Asus an ROG board is going to come in, where you're going to get that extra kind of bandwidth because it's a bigger board, it has more features, it's more expensive, yada, yada, yada. So there you go. Hopefully that's kind of giving you a bit of an insight as to what the Z690-Plus Wi-Fi is all about. And remember, we are actually going to have reviews of these. Today is basically the date, the 27th, where we can do all the previews and unboxings. And I mean, speaking of that, we have got lots of other boards, including the Z690i Mini ITX Gaming Wi-Fi board. We even have the mammoth, and it's heavy as hell, Z690 Extreme. And we have got a preview of that, and obviously we will have reviews on all these boards as the date actually allows us to do so. But yeah, hopefully it's just giving you a general idea as to whether this is a board for you. Be sure to subscribe so you can check back when we do have them all important reviews, and obviously the all-important benchmark and performance figures. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.